The air in the Crestview Partners trading floor didn't just hum, it sang a song of pure, undiluted ambition. It was a symphony of clicking keyboards, the gentle rustle of Bloomberg terminal pages turning, the low murmur of analysts discussing basis points over artisanal coffee, and beneath it all, the sweet, intoxicating scent of money being made. Real money. Life-altering money. I breathed it in, letting it fill my lungs as I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of my corner office, looking down at Chicago's financial district sprawled beneath me like a kingdom I had helped conquer. At 24, I was Elena Vance, the youngest vice president in Crestview's history. My business card said quantitative analytics and risk management, but everyone knew I was Richard Kroger's secret weapon. The quant queen, they called me, though never to my face. Kroger preferred my little prodigy, a term that made my skin crawl even as I accepted the seven-figure bonuses that came with it. My office was a monument to my rise. Scandinavian minimalist furniture, a single stunning orchid on my desk and on the wall, framed alongside my Northwestern MBA and CFA charter, a photograph of me and Pops, Charles Pops Vance, in his grease-stained coveralls, standing proudly beside the 1967 Mustang he'd restored with his own hands, his arm around my shoulders in my graduation gown. That photo was my compass, my reason. My truth in a world increasingly built on elegant fictions. Pops had raised me after the accident that took my parents. He'd traded his dream of opening his own garage to work double shifts at the dealership, ensuring I had every educational opportunity. When Parkinson's began to steal his steady hands, I swore I would move heaven and earth to give him the best care. Crestview was my vehicle. That morning, the market was particularly volatile. The Federal Reserve had made unexpected noises about inflation. I was running sensitivity analyses on our flagship fund, the Ascendant Capital Partners Fund, a $4.2 billion behemoth. That was Kroger's crown jewel. My screen flickered with cascading numbers, correlation matrices, and stress test scenarios. I was looking for hidden fractures, the kind only someone with my particular blend of mathematical genius and obsessive attention to detail could find. And then I saw it. A decimal point, not in a price, but in an internal tracking code for a series of transfers to a subsidiary fund called Marlin Holdings. BVI, a one where there should have been a 7. It was the kind of tiny, seemingly innocuous error a junior analyst might make and never notice. But my brain, trained by Pops to spot a misaligned camshaft from 20 feet, locked onto it. The 7 series was for highly liquid exchange-traded securities. The 1 series was for illiquid, hard-to-value private equity stakes. A reclassification error could mask a significant risk shift. Curiosity, that most dangerous of impulses for a woman in my position, took hold. I dove deeper, using backdoor access codes Kroger had given me in a moment of misplaced trust. What began as a routine data validation exercise turned into a digital archaeology dig through layers of obfuscation. Over the next 3 weeks, in stolen moments between my official duties, I built a shadow model of Marlin Holdings' cash flows. The pattern that emerged was not a mistake. It was a masterpiece of financial engineering designed not to create value, but to conceal theft. Approximately every quarter, $4.2 million would transfer from a Crestview client account to Marlin Holdings. The justification in the ledger was always vague: strategic reallocation, currency hedge adjustment, portfolio rebalancing. From Marlin, the money would bounce through 2 more shell companies, Tradewind, Arbitrage LLC, and Pembroke Asset Trust, before fragmenting into smaller sums that eventually settled in accounts I began to trace to their ultimate beneficiaries. A $1.8 million wire paid off the mortgage on a luxury penthouse on Baltic Avenue. The owner of record was Elena Vance, a chilling use of my own last name. Public records showed Lydia was a 25-year-old holistic wellness consultant who was, according to society, page gossip, Richard Kroger's latest and most expensive mistress. A $750,000 transfer purchased a vintage 1972 Ferrari Daytona Spider at auction in Monaco. The buyer was a shell company, but the shipping documents led to a private garage. Attached to Kroger's estate in Lake Forest, a $500,000 donation to the Museum of Midwest Financial History, a tiny institution whose board chairman was none other than a senior regulator. Kroger was actively lobbying regarding fund transparency rules. The pieces clicked together with the cold, hard certainty of a vault door slamming shut. Richard Kroger, the titan, the legend, the man whose portrait hung in the lobby, was systematically looting his own clients' funds. He was a parasite feeding on the very wealth he was entrusted to grow. My initial reaction wasn't fear. It was a white-hot, purifying rage. This wasn't just illegal. It was a violation of every principle I believed in. Finance, for all its complexity, was built on trust. Kroger was spitting on that trust. He was also jeopardizing everything I'd built for Pops if Ascendant collapsed. My bonuses, which paid for his experimental treatments at the University of Chicago Medical Center, would evaporate. I had to act. But I was not naive. Going directly to the authorities was a suicide mission. Kroger had former U.S. attorneys on his personal payroll and judges on his speed dial. I needed internal allies. I thought of Martin Foss. Foss was my direct supervisor, a man in his late 50s who cultivated an image of avuncular wisdom. He spoke in careful, measured tones, always had a piece of hard candy to offer, and loved to tell stories about the old days at Goldman Sachs. He had been my mentor of a sort. He was also, I knew, deeply loyal to Kroger, having been pulled from mid-level obscurity a decade ago and handed a partnership. I requested a private meeting, framing it as a sensitive risk management issue. When I entered his book-lined office, the smell of pipe tobacco and leather was usually calming. That day, it felt funereal. Elena, come in, come in. You look serious. Not another Brexit scare, I hope. He chuckled, gesturing to the plush chair opposite his desk. I didn't sit. I placed my personal laptop, loaded with my shadow model, on his desk. Martin, we have a critical problem. It's not the market, it's internal. For the next 20 minutes, I walked him through it. The erroneous code, the shell companies, the wire transfers, the penthouse, the Ferrari, the suspicious donation. I spoke with a crisp, technical precision that had earned me my reputation. I showed him the digital paper trail, the correlations that were beyond coincidence. I expected shock, outrage, a call to the compliance department. What I got was silence. Then a sigh so deep it seemed to come from the soles of his expensive Oxfords. He didn't look at the screen. He looked out the window, his profile suddenly looking every one of his 58 years. Elena, he said finally, his voice weary, you have a mind like a scalpel. It's what makes you invaluable. But a scalpel in the hands of a child can do terrible damage. I blinked. I'm not a child, Martin. This is evidence of systematic embezzlement. We have a fiduciary duty. We have a duty, he interrupted, turning his pale, tired eyes to me. To the stability of this firm, to the thousands of employees whose livelihoods depend on it, to the pension funds of school teachers and firefighters who are invested in Ascendant. What you're showing me? It's not what you think. Then what is it? I demanded, my voice rising. It's a complex proprietary capital preservation strategy. A series of off-balance sheet vehicles and tactical asset reallocations that Richard personally oversees. It's beyond your clearance level. It's beyond my clearance level. He spoke slowly, as if explaining quantum physics to a toddler. What you see as a Ferrari is a necessary business expense for client development. The penthouse is a corporate asset used for entertaining overseas investors. The donation is strategic philanthropy to maintain our regulatory standing. It was a ludicrous, insulting fiction. That's not true, and you know it. The paperwork alone can be explained, he said flatly, and will be if necessary. But it won't be necessary, Elena, because you are going to delete every file related to this investigation. You are going to consider this a masterclass in how things truly work at this level. And in return, he leaned forward, his voice dropping to a confidential murmur. Your next bonus will be $2 million. Your partnership vote will be accelerated by 2 years. You will have a seat at the table you've only dreamed of. The bribe was so vast, so blatant, it took my breath away. $2 million. It would secure Pops's care for a decade. It was everything I'd worked for, handed to me on a silver platter. All I had to do was look away. I thought of Pops's hands, once so strong and sure, now trembling as he tried to lift a spoon. I thought of his voice telling me, "You can't fake a torque setting, Ellie girl. The wrench don't lie." I looked at Martin Foss, at his tired, compromised eyes. No, the warmth in his face vanished, replaced by something cold and hard, like the surface of a frozen lake. "Then you leave me no choice." He pressed a button on his... Elena Vance said, his voice now devoid of all emotion. "David has been conducting a routine review of the Aurora Pharma leveraged buyout you led last quarter. He's found some concerning irregularities." My blood ran cold. Oriona. That deal was pristine. We did everything by the book. Did you? Chen asked softly, opening the folder. He slid a series of spreadsheets toward me. They bore my unique formatting style, my color-coded risk assessments. But the numbers were wrong. They showed a series of manual overrides I'd never authorized. Adjustments to the discount rate that artificially inflated Aurora's projected cash flows by 15%. Attached were printouts of internal emails from my address, instructing a junior analyst to make the numbers work and not be so conservative. "They're forgeries," I whispered, horror dawning. "Your login credentials were used," Chen said. "The timestamps match your workstation activity logs. The junior analyst has signed a sworn affidavit confirming your instructions. The digital forensics are quite clear, Elena. This is a pattern of reckless data manipulation designed to push through a deal and earn your team a larger performance fee." It was a frame-up, a perfect, elegant, bulletproof frame-up. They had been preparing for this. While I was digging into Kroger's theft, they had been building a prison for me. Foz delivered the final blow. "We can handle this internally." A tragic case of a brilliant young mind buckling under the pressure to perform. A quiet termination, a generous severance package, and a comprehensive confidentiality agreement to protect the firm's reputation. He paused, letting the unspoken alternative hang in the tobacco-scented air. "Or we can forward this evidence to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Wire fraud, securities fraud, making false statements to investors. You're looking at a minimum of 10 years in federal prison, Elena. Your assets would be seized. Your grandfather. What would the stress of a trial do to him? This shame. Who would pay for his care when you're in a cell?" They had researched my weakness. They had found the exact pressure point. The image they painted, Pops alone, confused, destitute. Watching his granddaughter be branded a criminal was more terrifying than any prison sentence. My defiance, my righteous anger, crumbled into dust. The fight drained out of me, leaving a hollow, aching shell. I had lost. They had all the power, all the money, all the lies. With hands that trembled almost as badly as Pops's, I signed their documents. The termination agreement. The non-disclosure agreement that threatened me with financial ruin if I ever breathed a word of what I knew. I was escorted from the building by stone-faced security guards, my personal effects in a single cardboard box. I didn't look back at the gleaming tower. I couldn't. The fall was not gradual. It was a straight drop into an abyss. The quiet termination was a myth. Within hours, the whisper network of Chicago finance was ablaze. Elena Vance fired from Crestview. Major ethical lapse. Cooked the books on the Aurora deal. Under investigation. My phone, which had once buzzed constantly with recruiters and colleagues, became a dead weight in my hand. Silence. I reached out to my network. The responses were polite, distant, and final. "Now's not a good time, Elena. The position has been filled internally. We've decided to go with a candidate whose experience is more aligned with our current needs." My savings, substantial as they were, began to hemorrhage. Pops's medical bills were a tsunami. $8,000. dollars a month for the experimental drug infusion therapy, $4,000 for the physical therapist, $3,500 for the part-time aide, $5,000 for the mortgage and property taxes on our Evanston bungalow. I sold my BMW. I liquidated my stock portfolio at a loss. I cashed out my 401k, paying the penalty. It wasn't enough. 6 months after my fall, the bank foreclosed on our home. The house Pops had bought with my mother's life insurance, where he'd taught me to change a tire and balance a checkbook. We packed what little we could into suitcases and moved into a single room at the Evergreen Sunset Assisted Living Complex in Cicero. It was a place of echoing linoleum hallways, the constant smell of overcooked vegetables and disinfectant, and the muffled sounds of television from behind closed doors. Pops's hospital bed dominated the tiny space, stark metal monument to our new reality. The worst part was the light in his eyes. The confusion, the humiliation of his brilliant, capable granddaughter being reduced to this. He never blamed me. He just held my hand, his grip weak and tremulous, and said, "We'll be okay, Ellie girl. We Vances are tough, but we weren't okay." I was drowning. I took any work I could find. Temp data entry, retail holiday shifts, delivery gigs. The pay was a pittance against the mountain of debt. I was surviving on 2 hours of sleep a night, running between jobs and caring for Pops, fueled by caffeine and despair. Then I saw the ad, scribbled on a bulletin board at a grimy laundromat. Night janitor, cash pay. No questions. Sterling and Gray BLDG asked for Hank. Sterling and Gray Capital. It was one of the few major firms in the city with a reputation as clean as Crestview's was now. In my mind, filthy. It was founded and run by Alexander Sterling of Vonderkind, known for his almost fanatical commitment to ethical investing. The irony was so bitter, I could taste it. Cleaning the toilets of a man who stood for everything I believed in, while the man who represented everything corrupt in my industry walked free. But cash was cash, and no questions meant no background check. No probing into why a former VP was pushing a mop. I met Hank, a grizzled, kind-eyed Ukrainian man with a permanent stoop. In the loading dock of the Sterling and Gray Tower, he looked me over, saw the desperation I couldn't hide, and nodded. Shift is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 5 floors. You do bathrooms, vacuum, trash, dust. No talking to anyone. You see something, you don't see it. $120 a night, cash, every Friday. You want? I want, I said, my voice hoarse. And so Elena Vance, CFA, former quant queen, became a ghost. The nighttime world of Sterling and Gray was a different planet. By day, it was a hive of intense, purposeful energy. By night, it was a silent, gleaming museum dedicated to wealth. My uniform was a shapeless gray jumpsuit, my name replaced by a generic facilities badge. My tools were a heavy, rattling cart stocked with chemical drums, rolls of blue paper towels, a dozen different sprays, and a vacuum cleaner that sounded like a dying animal. My territory was floors 60 through 63. The executive levels. The air up here was different, cooler, filtered, smelling of lemon polish and money. The art on the walls was original and abstract. The carpets were so thick, they swallowed sound. I learned the rhythms. The last analysts usually trickled out by 8 p.m. The security guards made their rounds at 9, 12, and 3 a.m. And then there was him. Alexander Sterling, he was almost a myth among the night crew. Hank had warned me. The boss man, he works late. Sometimes all night. You see him, you nod, you keep working. He don't like chatter. I saw him often, through glass office walls or disappearing around a corner. He was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s. He moved with a contained, athletic grace, like a swimmer or a rock climber. He was usually in shirt sleeves, tie loosened, his dark hair perpetually looking like he'd run his hands through it. He had a focused, intense presence that seemed to vibrate in the empty space around him. The first time he spoke to me, I was in the main conference room on the 63rd floor, the Lakeview room. It was 2:15 a.m. I was polishing the vast, oval mahogany table, my reflection a wan smudge in its dark surface. I heard a soft footstep and turned. He stood in the doorway holding a ceramic mug. He looked exhausted, shadows like bruises under his eyes, but his gaze was alert. "Zinfandel-stain," he said, his voice a quiet, resonant baritone that didn't startle me. He pointed to a faint, purplish shadow on the credenza. It was from a celebration. A junior analyst landed his first big client. He was so excited he knocked over his glass. I'd hate for it to be logged as a hostile biohazard incident. He was making a joke, a small, dry, human joke. To a janitor, I managed to nod, my throat tight. "Noted, sir. Celebration, not mutiny." A faint, tired smile touched his lips. It transformed his face, making him look younger, less like a monument and more like a man. "Thank you for your care, Elena." He knew my name. He'd read my generic badge. He left then, padding silently back toward his office. I stood there, the polished rag limp in my hand, feeling a strange, painful lump in my throat. It was the first time anyone in a position of power had spoken to me like a human being in over a year. A week later, found an envelope on his desk. It was thick, sealed with a note clipped to the front in that same slashing handwriting. "For the night crew, fuel for the marathon." I began to observe him more closely, not with the eyes of a colleague, but with the keen, unnoticed gaze of a ghost. I saw how he treated the late-night security guard, Frank, asking about his daughter's college applications. I saw him once, patiently helping a clearly overwhelmed young intern understand a complex chart at 11 p.m. His voice patient, not condescending. He left books on his desk, not just financial texts, but volumes of history, philosophy, even poetry. He was a reader. He was also, I noted with my analyst's brain, under immense pressure. In the months after I started, the late nights grew more frequent. The tension in the empty corridors seemed to thicken. I overheard snippets from cleaning the phone receivers, a habit from my paranoid Crestview days. Hushed conversations about due diligence, integration teams, and regulatory approval. Then, one night while emptying the trash in an empty analyst's cubicle, I saw a discarded draft press release on the recycling pile. The headline leaped out at me. Sterling and Gray Capital and Crestview Partners announce landmark strategic merger. The paper slipped from my fingers. A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. No, it can't be. But it was. Over the following nights, the evidence piled up. Discarded memos about cultural integration workshops. Spreadsheet printouts comparing Sterling and Gray's clean balance sheet with Crestview's robust, diversified asset base. The first pieced it together from the shredded fragments in the secure waste bins. A jigsaw puzzle of impending disaster. Richard Kroger was making his master play. Crestview was wounded after my departure. The Ascendant Fund's closure had raised eyebrows. Kroger needed a lifeline, a transfusion of credibility and capital. Who better than the golden boy of ethical finance, Alexander Sterling? He would use Sterling's impeccable reputation to absorb Crestview's toxic liabilities, pocket one final massive success fee, and disappear into retirement, leaving Sterling holding the bag. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it made me want to scream. Kroger was going to win. He was going to corrupt the one good thing I could see from my place in the shadows. A fierce, protective anger I hadn't felt since my own downfall began to burn in my chest. I couldn't let it happen. I owed Alexander Sterling that $500 and the dignity that came with it. But what could I do? I was a janitor with a falsified criminal record bound by an NDA, invisible. Then fate offered me a weapon. It was a Tuesday, the week before the merger signing was reportedly scheduled. Alexander had worked past 3 a.m. I was finishing the 63rd floor bathrooms. When I saw his office light finally go out, he left looking more drained than I'd ever seen him. My cart and I were the only things moving on the executive floor. As I passed his office, I saw it. His door, always meticulously closed, was ajar. Perhaps the lock hadn't caught. A sliver of light from the hallway fell across his massive, empty desk. I took a step forward, closing the distance between a king and the person who cleans his throne. The chemical scent of my uniform clashed with his clean citrus soap. I fixed my gaze on his and I spoke. Not in the hesitant mumble of a janitor, but in the crisp, technically precise, unassailable language of my former life. "Sir," I whispered, the word a dry rustle of conviction. "You cannot sign that deal. Do not walk into that room." The polite smile froze, then melted into confusion. "I'm sorry. The dam broke." The words came in a low, urgent, technically precise torrent. The language of my stolen life returning in a flood I could no longer contain. The Crestview merger is a fraudulent conveyance. Their asset valuations are fabricated. Quantum Leap is worthless open source code, not a 200 million proprietary engine. Their real estate portfolio has a 35% vacancy rate and 8-figure capital expenditure liabilities buried in Exhibit F22, the contingent liability structure in Annex C. Clauses 14B through 22 East. Is a 150 million poison pill designed to transfer Crestview's hidden debt to you upon the failure of impossible performance benchmarks? And Richard Kroger's 15 million success fee is an immediate, irrevocable cash extraction, contractually immune to clawback even if the fraud is discovered. It's not a merger. It's a parasite attaching to a healthy host, and it will bleed you dry within 18 months. His face underwent a terrifying transformation. Confusion, disbelief. Then a dawning, horrified comprehension that leached the color from his skin. His eyes, wide and stunned, dropped to my gloved, reddened hands. Then raked over my stained uniform, back to my face, searching for madness, for a trick, for the punchline. He found only the fierce, unblinking certainty of someone who has already lost everything and has nothing left to lose. "And your team," I pressed on, delivering the final brutal blow. "Your lead integration counsel, Martin Foss. Your head of post-merger oversight, David Chen. They've certified this abomination. They haven't been negligent. They've been bribed. Crestview bought your guardians. I'd estimate the price at $2.5 million each, likely laundered through non-traceable asset purchases." The blood drained completely from Alexander Sterling's face, leaving it a stark white mask of shock. For a second, he was utterly still, a statue. Then, as if a crimson tide was unleashed from his core, a flush of pure volcanic rage surged up his neck, mottled his cheeks, and burned the very tips of his ears a fierce, glowing, furious red. The paper towel in his hand was crushed into a pulpy, shredded wad. His jaw clenched so tight I heard the grind of his teeth. The cool blue of his eyes ignited into a glacial, furious fire. He wasn't looking at a janitor anymore. He was looking at the messenger of a truth so devastating it could atomize his life's work. He held up a single, commanding finger, silence. His voice, when it emerged, was not the calm baritone, but a whip crack of pure, undiluted authority. Low and deadly. "My office now. Do not speak to anyone." I scurried ahead of him, my shoes squeaking on the polished floor. He shut the door behind us, sealing us in the quiet, wood-paneled tomb of his office. The world outside ceased to exist. He didn't sit. He went straight to his desk, a predator on the hunt, and punched the intercom button. His voice, when it rang out through the executive floor's speaker system, was not loud. It was colder than Lake Michigan in January, sharper than a scalpel, and it carried the absolute, terrifying weight of judgment. "This is Alexander Sterling. All hands, emergency. Assembly, Lakeview Conference Room, immediately. Every single person, this means Foss, this means Chen. The Crestview deal is terminated as of this second." The silence that followed was profound, then shattered by a wave of gasps, scrambling, and chaotic movement. Through the glass wall of his office, I saw a tableau of frozen horror. Martin Foss, holding a celebratory leather folder, stopped dead in the middle of the floor, his face draining of all color. David Chen, emerging from a side office with 2 associates, dropped his coffee mug. The ceramic shattered on the hard floor, a sharp, symbolic crack that echoed the breaking of their world. Alexander didn't go to the conference room. He picked up his phone, dialing from memory. Frank Sterling. Activate Protocol Aegis. Full electronic lockdown on the executive floor. No data in or out. Isolate the servers. Then call Lieutenant Vargas at CPD Financial Crimes. Tell him to get a team here now. We have a live conspiracy, commercial bribery, and attempted grand larceny. A pause. His eyes, hard as flint, met mine. The targets are Martin Foss, David Chen, and the entire Crestview delegation, including Richard Kroger. Yes, arrest warrants. I have a material witness and forensic evidence. He hung up and turned to me. The storm was still in his eyes, but it was now channeled, focused into a beam of intense, terrifying concentration. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. Leave nothing out. And so I did. For over an hour in that office with the door closed against the gathering storm outside, I broke my 2-year vow of silence. I told him about my life, my work, my discovery of Kroger's 87 million scheme. I described the frame-up, the forged documents, the chilling threat to Pops. I showed him the grainy photos on my cracked phone, zooming in on the fraudulent clauses, explaining their financial mechanics with the clarity of a professor teaching a masterclass. I named names, cited dates, mapped the digital pathway of the original theft. I was no longer a victim. I was an expert witness presenting her case to the only judge who mattered. He listened, rapt, taking furious notes on a legal pad. When I finished, my voice raw, he was silent for a long minute, staring at the evidence on my tiny, broken screen. Your NDA, he stated, his voice now that of a supremely confident attorney, is legally void. It was executed under duress to conceal ongoing felony activity. It's not worth the ink they used to print it. He picked up the phone again. Margaret, 3 directives. First, draft an employment contract for Elena Vance. Title, Director of Forensic Audit and Special Counsel to the CEO. Salary, $450,000 base. Signing bonus, $300,000. Wired today. Full executive benefits, platinum tier medical with no lifetime cap, immediate vesting in the equity plan. He paused, listening. Second, contact Dr. Evelyn Reed at Northwestern Neurology. We are transferring a patient, Charles Vance, for immediate, comprehensive evaluation and a permanent residence in their assisted living pavilion. Full-time, one-on-one nursing care. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, the works. Spare no expense. Third, call our litigation team at Cravath. We are filing a federal RICO suit against Crestview Partners, Richard Kroger, and all named co-conspirators. We are also making criminal referrals to the SEC, the DOJ, and the IRS. I want the papers filed by 5 p.m. today. He hung up and looked at me. The fury had been replaced by something profound, a respect so deep it was akin to awe, and a gratitude that softened the hard lines of his face. Elena Vance, he said, my name sounding like a reclaimed title, something precious unearthed. You didn't just save my company. You saved the dreams of every employee here. You saved a legacy built on a principle that seems to be in vanishingly short supply: integrity. You endured a personal hell to protect your grandfather. And then, from the depths of that hell, you reached out to protect people you owed nothing to. That is a quality beyond price. Welcome back from the wilderness. Asterisk, asterisk. If this story of a phoenix rising from the ashes of betrayal, of quiet integrity, vanquishing roaring corruption, and of a love that sees the soul beneath the circumstance resonates with you, if you believe that the most powerful forces are often the ones that speak the softest, then stand with us. Like, share, and subscribe to the Revenge Stories. We are the voice for the silenced, the champions of the overlooked, and the living proof that the darkest nights produce the brightest dawns. Asterisk, asterisk. Remember, your value is not defined by the uniform you wear or the title you hold. It is etched in your courage, your integrity, and your willingness to speak your truth, even if it must begin as a whisper in a silent room. Never, ever underestimate the world-changing power of someone who has lost everything but their voice. who has lost everything but their voice.